Hello friends and family, hello, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ruth Madlazi and I am a teacher from South Africa. Ever since I made the announcement very recently that I accepted an offer to teach in South Korea, to teach English, I've been getting a lot of questions, people asking, what exactly did you do to score this job? How did you apply? Can I do it? Do I qualify? And so on. I thought today is the perfect time to record a video and give you some information specifically on the EPIK program, which is short for English Program in Korea, because that's the exact program that I'm leaving for. I think the applications opened on the 1st of August for people who want to work in Korea in 2023. So this is the perfect time to get started on gathering all the necessary information, gathering your documents, and getting started. So let's get right to it. But behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love. In order to access a Teaching English in South Korea opportunity, there's two ways you can go about it. Firstly, you could apply to teach at a public school. Alternatively, you could apply to teach at a private academy, also called a Hogwan. I will start with the Hogwans. These are private tutoring academies which are established primarily as businesses that specialize in providing extra assistance and support in a specific area. So there are mathematics Hogwans, there are debating Hogwans, especially in China. There are even English Hogwans or academies where the teacher there is responsible for helping the learners sharpen their skills in listening, writing, reading, and speaking. As an English teacher at a Hogwan, you would have to wait for the learners to knock out or knock off from their original school that they attend on a daily basis. And then after school, they will come to you for that extra support. It might be for an hour or two, and it might be across different age groups. In a public school, you would be working alongside the teacher that is teaching the learners English, and you would be providing the opportunities for more speaking. You need to be aware that Korea is a very homogeneous society, so they use Korean in business, at schools, for entertainment, everywhere. And it's only now through globalization and them gaining so much momentum economically that they realize the need to integrate English into their schooling system. And because a lot of Korean learners excel and they want to access opportunities of studying in prestigious universities across the world, it then becomes a prerequisite for them to understand and know English. So in a public school, you would be then helping the learners practice those 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, speaking, and you'll be working alongside your Korean co-teacher, and you will have a provided curriculum. You will also given some creative licenses to create your own material, especially for the English camps and other setups that will be made for you to give learners the opportunity to speak more English, to listen, to read, and to write. So in order to teach at a public school, you would need to apply through the EPIK program. You can do this in 2 ways. You can directly apply via the EPIK website, or you can use the only partnering agency that they have now, which is Kovia. That's how I applied as well. I filled in a Kovia application. I had an interview with Kovia, and then I filled in the EPIK application. I had an interview with EPIK, and then after I gathered my documents, I submitted them, and so it went. If you want to apply through the Hogwans, you can apply via multiple agencies. There are a lot of them, but you need to be very careful because agencies operate as businesses in as much as the Hogwans themselves operate as businesses. So I've seen that a lot of teachers who apply to teach at the Hogwans, the process is so quick. Like you can apply today, get a response tomorrow, get an interview on Monday, and in a month you are in a flight going to South Korea to teach in a place that you don't know. And the risk with this is that there are a lot of red flags that you might be unaware of or that you might avoid because the process is so quick and you aren't given that much time to really investigate and think about what you're getting yourself into. So my advice is that if you are going to apply to teach through a Hogwan, don't allow the agencies to force your hand into picking a Hogwan before you've had multiple interviews or before you've had the opportunity to really investigate the Hogwan that is offering you a potential position as an English teacher. There's a lot of horror stories that are out there. If you just go to YouTube and type Hogwan horror story, I'm sure there's more than 1,000 videos that will come up where people say the most painful things, such as I was not paid for a number of months. You know, I was laid off because the parents didn't like me. They didn't like my accent or they didn't like this and that. There's just a lot that can go wrong in Hogwans, hence the need to take more necessary precaution and to be hands-on and don't allow your hand to be forced by the agency. But above and beyond, I think that the opportunity to teach abroad, whether it's in South Korea, whether it's in any other Asian country or any other country in the world, I think this is such a wonderful opportunity, especially for South African graduates who are just chilling with their degrees and there are no opportunities. I'll just give you a bit of history about myself so you understand sort of the merits of my application, and then I'll go into guiding you on how to apply. Okay, so firstly, I am a qualified teacher. I did a Bachelor's of Education at the University of Johannesburg. I majored in economics, so I didn't major in teaching English. And I also did my honors degree in education. And I have some teaching experience, teaching English online, teaching economics and EMS, and also working with university students. So that is a bit of my background in education. I am, you know, today and every day, just someone who's very passionate about education. And I just wanted an opportunity to teach, but not in the South African education system for a number of reasons. And the most obvious one would be the finances. The financial remuneration that we get as teachers in South Africa is not enough. It's not reflective of the work that we put in to acquire these qualifications and the investment that we want to make or that we make into the country's education, you know, educating the young, ensuring that they have the necessary skills to participate in the economy one day. I think that our government overlooks that contribution and pays us peanuts. So I applied to teach in South Korea because firstly, I feel like the professional standards in a lot of Asian countries are like top tier. I will come back with a great work ethic. You know, I'll be able to research how they are succeeding in education and hopefully try and implement some of those changes one day in my own country. So for those asking, are you going to come back? Yes. When are you going to come back? I don't know. But yeah, that's just a brief background on me. So if you want to teach English in South Korea, firstly, you need to have a degree. You need to be a degree holder in any field. It doesn't mean that you have to be a teacher like I am, but if you have a minimum 3 years degree in any field rather than education, you will have to apply and complete a TEFL course. So TEFL stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. You can complete a TEFL or TESOL or CETL course. Basically, it equips you with the necessary skills to teach a language to people who will use that language as a second language. For me, as someone who majored in economics, I thought that it was very important for me to do a TEFL course as well, because I majored in economics. I really don't have the ins and outs of how to successfully teach a language. So I did a TEFL course and I used it to teach English online. And I would highly advise that even if you did study a Bachelor's of Education, if you didn't major in English, or even if you majored in English, you still can benefit largely from getting a TEFL certificate. Especially because for the English program in Korea, or EPIK, if you have a TEFL, you stand a chance of starting off on a slightly higher salary, especially if you have a B.Ed as well. So that's the first thing. You need a degree in any field and you need a TEFL certificate, especially if you did not get your undergrad degree in education. The second thing is you need to have a clean criminal record. No country is going to allow a criminal to come and work with their children. Right, so now that we've discussed the main differences between Hogwans and public schools, we've also discussed the 3 requirements for teaching English in South Korea, which are a degree in any field and a TEFL certificate if you're not qualified as a teacher, and a clear criminal record. What about the documents? So let's discuss documents for the EPIK program, because there's a lot of them. It was very it was exhausting to try and gather them on time, especially because of COVID. Firstly, you will need your degree, and you don't send just your original copy of the degree or just a copy of the degree. You need to send an apostilled copy of the degree. What does this mean? You make a copy of your degree, you send an email to SAQA or SAQA, but it's verifications@saqua.org.za, I think, and you just say to them you want your degree to be verified. So you need a verification letter from SAQA. You get that verification letter after you pay for it. You pay around 620, and you send that verification letter to DERCO. So DERCO is the one that performs the apostille. They don't perform an apostille on just a dry copy of your degree, but it is a copy of your degree along with the SAQA verification letter. So that's already 2 things. It's the SAQA verification letter, which just says we acknowledge that this person's degree is authentic, and then it's also a copy of the degree itself, which is stamped by SAQA, which will then be additionally stamped by DERCO. So that's 2 things. A verification letter as well as a stamp from DERCO. Secondly, you will need a police clearance certificate. And here, a lot of people ask, do I need to go to the police station, or can I get those police clearance certificates from the post office or from companies such as Switch? And the answer is we need your fingerprints. We need a police clearance certificate from the SAPS. The ones that you get for 200 rands from Switch will not work, because this is a sort of government to government interaction. We need government national records that will verify, whatever you say, whether you say we need documents that are from the government or a specific government agency that will corroborate and confirm what you are saying. So please go to the police station, get your fingerprints taken. You can submit the police clearance application to the CRC yourself, the Criminal Record Center in Pretoria, or you could alternatively leave your police station to do the rest of the work for you. But it takes time, guys, especially because of COVID. You will wait around 3 months to get your police clearance certificate. So if you're looking to apply either at a Hogwan or even via EPIK, get started with the police clearance ASAP. The other thing you will need for EPIK is a proof of English education letter. And you will need a number of these because you didn't attend just one school. I'll make an example with myself. I went to a primary school that finished at grade 4, and then I went to a higher primary school that finished at grade 7, and then I went to high school. So what EPIK wants is letters from your 7th grade, which will prove that the education you got in that school was in English. So because they are aware that in countries like South Africa, you will be taught in your home language from grade 1 up until around grade 3, but from grade 7, it's guaranteed that you will be taught everything in English until you finish high school. So I had to go to my primary school and my high school to say, please just write these simple letters that say, we know Ruth Madlazi, she was a learner at our school from this year until this year, and we are available to answer any of your questions if you have about her and her enrollment at our school. All of the subjects except her home language were taught in English, and as a result, she qualifies for the EPIK program, essentially. That's what the letter will say. Very short, very sweet, straight to the point. It should be stamped, it should be dated, and it should be signed by the principal. Right. After that, you also need 2 recommendation letters. So these are letters that will come from either your professors, if maybe you've done an honors degree or a master's degree. The person that was a supervisor is a great candidate to write a recommendation letter for you because they've worked with you to produce something. You've produced a paper, you were a researcher alongside them, so they know your work ethic. They can speak a lot about your academic finesse. They know a lot, and they can say a lot of nice stuff that can put you on the next level when it comes to your application. So I would say for the recommendation letter, you can ask your supervisor, you can ask one of your lecturers, you can even guide them and send them templates that have been advertised on the Covia or EPIK websites to show them how the recommendation letter should be structured. Very simple, but what takes time is that usually our professors are very busy. You might send an email now and get a response like a month later. So you need to be very persistent in getting that recommendation letter. There has to be 2 letters. So one can be from your professor. If you have previous working experience, the other letter can come from your line manager from a previous job, and they can also say, we know so-and-so, they were great in doing their role from this time to this time. I recommend that they are, enrolled in the EPIK program. And if you want to reach me, these are the contact details. One thing you should not forget in these recommendation letters is that they need to have all the information pertaining to the person who's recommending you and the company. So it will need to have the logo of the company, the signature, if there's a stamp, a date, and so on. The information about this is also available on the Covia and EPIK websites. So do everything thoroughly. And if your professor messes something up, go back to them, very humbly request that they redo the letter. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but I'd just like to emphasize that even the police clearance certificate that you will get from the SAPS needs to be apostilled by DIRCO. So there's 2 documents that need to be apostilled by DIRCO, and this is your SAQA verification letter and a copy of your degree, as well as the police clearance certificate. Other people have tried to use agencies, people who say, pay me so much money, I will expedite the process of you getting your letter or your police clearance certificate. Give me this much money, I will go to DIRCO for you. And unfortunately, those people have been scammed. So it's very important to do your due diligence if you're going to use an agent, and make sure that they're not like just a random person who's trying to get money and swindle people who are trying to go teach abroad. Research properly, and if you can, try to handle these processes by yourself. I think that it's like a huge risk to take to get fake documents for a job of teaching abroad, because we never know. What if your name gets on a blacklist and one day you try to apply again and they're like, this one uses fake documents? So yeah, just stay clear of like agencies that are shady. And if you're gonna use an agent, try to make sure that you research, you look at their recommendations and reviews, and you don't just rush into the process and find yourself scammed. Right. So another document that you will need is your passport, obviously, because you're going to travel abroad. You can use your bank these days to, get the biometrics of your passport application, and the bank will submit these on your behalf on Home Affairs. So yeah, you can use a bank, you can go to Home Affairs directly. It costs about 500 rands to get a passport. And of course, when you apply, your passport should be valid for at least a year or 2 while you are staying in that country. Right, so all of the documents that I just discussed will most probably be required for both an application to teach at a public school via the EPIK program or at a Hogwan, which is a private academy. Now I want to discuss that very defining factor, which makes people conclude that the EPIK application is very tedious and long. Right? And that is the EPIK application form. So before you submit the supporting documents that I just mentioned, you firstly need to fill in an EPIK application. Whether you use Covia or not, you will need to fill in the EPIK application, which is very long and comprehensive. The first section of it will just be your personal details. Which country are you from? What is your passport number? Have you ever lived outside of your country for a period longer than 5 years? Do you take drugs? Do you have a tattoo? Do you have a disease? Do you have a mental illness? They ask questions as deep as that. And then there is a specific section where you write essays. So you write essays firstly responding to the question, why teach English? And why teach English in South Korea? Because you could have gone anywhere, but you came here. Why? Secondly, they also want to know, what are the teaching strategies that you will introduce to the Korean classroom? Because as I said, the Korean classroom is in Korean. Mathematics, geography, natural sciences, life sciences, all of these are taught in Korean, and it's only English that is learned in English. And as a result, you are a very important aspect of the child's daily life, the child or the learner that will get to interact with you. So there needs to be some value add that the school will have from you, and you need to explain exactly what that is going to be. The last Final, and I think most challenging step of the EPIK application process is the lesson plan. So at the end of the essays, where you answer questions about why teach in Korea, what do you love about Korea, what teaching strategies will you implement, you also need to design a fully fledged lesson plan. And during your EPIK interview, you will have to teach at least 5 minutes of this lesson plan, which is really daunting. So I can imagine that for people who do not have a background in education or in teaching, it might be very challenging to put together a convincing and well-structured lesson plan. I recommend that if you do not have a background in education, when you do your TEFL course, there is a section where you have to do a lesson plan. Pay attention there and take some notes from the lesson plan that might be provided as an example in the course, and use those pointers when you fill in your EPIK application, because it's more or less the same thing. So make sure that you focus during your TEFL course, and you make sure that you put a special note on the lesson plan that you will have to do for the TEFL course, and you can use a similar approach when filling in the EPIK lesson plan. There's also a variety of lesson plans that a lot of previous EPIK applicants have shared with us here on the YouTube streets. You can access those. People like Palisa Jonas, Leti Maps, and Apokubie, they really helped us understand the EPIK application process a bit better. So also spend time watching YouTube videos of people who have already gone through the EPIK application process. Another thing that I forgot to mention when it comes to the application process for both Hogwans and the public school is that you need a couple of ID photos. So the best thing to do would be to go to Postnet or go to Kodak or anywhere else where you can get passport photos, and take those 8. I think they come out in 8. Just take the passport photos and cut them up into pieces, have 8 passport photos, and you will use those for your different applications. You'll need them for your visa application, you will need them for your EPIK application, you will need them for your ARC application once you're in Korea. So the passport photos are very important. If there's anything that I forgot to mention when it comes to the documentation, people of EPIK, please comment down below, or any teacher in South Korea that has had to gather these documents for either EPIK or a Hogwan, please help us down below. So before I make this video unnecessarily long, I'm gonna say adios. I will try to post another video where I explain my own essays and to say what are the interview questions that came up, and yeah, just preparing people who've already went through the application process and are now preparing for the interview. I think I will try to find time to create that kind of video. If you have any questions, any comments, share them down below, and I will see you next time. Thanks.